General Hospital spoilers for Thursday, July 30th. We need to start by looking at a very specific scene at General Hospital. When I was watching Elizabeth and Felicia react to the news of Drew's recovery, something about that moment stayed with me. It was not just the sheer shock on their faces, but the underlying disbelief that permeated the entire room. Drew's rapid, almost miraculous return to full mobility defies every known medical logic they have ever encountered. Elizabeth, with all her years of medical expertise and trauma care, looked at those charts and knew immediately that the math simply did not add up. I couldn't stop thinking about it. You do not just wake up from locked-in syndrome and start moving around without a trace of physical degradation. The more I think about it, the more I realize Elizabeth is already connecting the dots in her head. She is a veteran nurse who has seen the darkest corners of this hospital, and her intuition is screaming that Drew has been subjected to some kind of secret, off-the-books treatment. There is a distinct possibility that someone operating deep in the shadows has been secretly facilitating his recovery, administering a cure that is far beyond the reach of standard medical science. Elizabeth knows that miracles in Port Charles are rarely divine. They are usually manufactured by people with dangerous agendas. She is quietly observing, waiting for the other shoe to drop, and her silent suspicion is the first real clue that Drew's healing is not the blessing it appears to be. Meanwhile, across town at the Quartermain mansion, the atmosphere was entirely different, but equally tense. When Gio burst through the doors to announce that Drew was not only awake, but completely healthy, the reaction was not pure jubilation. Ned, Olivia, Danny, and Tracy were absolutely stunned into silence. It was a heavy, suffocating silence that spoke volumes about the current state of that family. But Tracy's reaction is what really caught my attention. The matriarch of the Quartermain family did not shed a tear of joy. Instead, her walls instantly went up, specifically regarding Scout. Tracy immediately and vehemently opposed the idea of Drew getting close to his daughter again, and her fierce protectiveness felt like a glaring red flag. If you ask me, Tracy is not just acting out of a grandmother's protective love. She is a master tactician who has survived decades of corporate warfare and family betrayals. She looks at Drew and does not see a recovering victim. She sees a man who is calculating his next move. Tracy suspects that Drew is planning to use Scout as a pawn, a strategic emotional anchor to regain his lost influence and power within the Quartermain Empire. She knows that whoever controls the narrative around the children often controls the boardroom, and she is absolutely terrified that Drew is going to manipulate that little girl to carve his way back to the head of the table. Speaking of power struggles and the manipulation of children, we have to talk about the absolute ice storm that is Willow and Michael's custody battle. The tension between them is thick enough to cut with a knife, but Willow's demeanor is entirely unnatural. She is not acting like a desperate mother, terrified of losing her children to the Corinthos machine. Instead, she is walking around with an unnerving, almost terrifying level of confidence. I keep coming back to that quiet smirk she gives when Michael tries to assert his dominance. It is the look of a woman who knows she is holding a royal flush while her opponent is playing with a pair of twos. She is not fighting a war. She is simply waiting for the inevitable surrender. Maybe there's another layer here. Willow's supreme confidence can only come from one place. She is holding on to a devastating secret that has completely paralyzed Michael's ability to counterattack. She knows something that could ruin him, and she is just waiting for the perfect moment to drop the guillotine. But secrets in Port Charles have a funny way of escaping their cages. I am looking closely at Jacinda. She is hovering right on the periphery of this entire war. And I have a strong feeling she is going to stumble upon whatever Willow is hiding. Jacinda could easily become the wild card that accidentally blows this entire custody battle wide open, shifting the balance of power in a matter of seconds. As we look at the broader picture of Drew's recovery, another glaring anomaly stands out. Kai and Trina are standing around, completely bewildered as to why Drew has not immediately gone to the police to report what was done to him. They are looking at the situation through the lens of justice and morality, genuinely believing that Drew is taking the high road and acting out of a noble desire to spare his family further trauma. They think he is just being a good, forgiving man who wants to move on with his life, but it doesn't seem accidental. A former Navy SEAL who was paralyzed and left for dead does not just forgive and forget. What if we're missing something entirely? Drew is not staying quiet out of the goodness of his heart. He is intentionally playing the victim, allowing everyone around him to believe he is weak, traumatized, and noble. He is using their assumptions as a smokescreen while he quietly and methodically prepares to turn the tables on every single person who wronged him. By keeping the police out of it, he keeps the board clear of unwanted interference. He wants his enemies to feel safe, to let their guard down, to believe they actually got away with it. And once they are comfortable, once they think the storm has passed, that is exactly when he is going to strike with absolute precision. I can already see the inevitable confrontation between Drew and Willow playing out in my mind. He is going to corner her when she least expects it, and the mask of the noble victim is going to slip completely. I imagine him walking into her space, flashing a dangerously cold smile, and perhaps even grabbing her by the collar to make his point crystal clear. He is going to use physical and psychological intimidation to back her into a corner, forcing her to accept a secret, binding deal. Willow might think she has Michael handled, but she is completely unprepared for a fully weaponized Drew Kane who has nothing left to lose. While Drew is plotting his revenge, Ava Jerome is conducting a masterclass in psychological warfare over at the gallery. She is relentlessly pressuring Nina, circling her like a shark that has smelled blood in the water. Ava's predatory instincts are unparalleled, and she can sense with absolute certainty that Nina is hiding a massive, dangerous truth. Every time Nina deflects or stammers, Ava just tightens the screws, applying more pressure to see where the cracks will form. But Ava is too smart to believe that Nina is acting alone. She knows that Nina does not have the strategic capacity to orchestrate something this massive. It's possible that Ava is about to have a massive realization. She is going to figure out that Nina is not the only person holding the keys to this mystery. Jack Brennan is lurking in the shadows, holding a crucial piece of the puzzle. Once Ava makes that connection, everything changes. She is going to shift her investigative crosshairs away from just Willow and Nina and point them directly at the WSB. Ava is not afraid of ghosts or spies. She thrives in the dark. If she realizes Brennan is involved, she will follow that thread straight into the heart of the intelligence agency, regardless of the danger it puts her in. Speaking of Jack Brennan, let's look at his current state. He is sitting in his office, seemingly beating himself up for failing to take down Drew when he had the perfect opportunity. He looks like a man who missed his shot and is wallowing in regret. But Brennan is a grandmaster at this game, and I refuse to believe he just made a simple miscalculation. I think Brennan intentionally took a step back. He deliberately allowed Drew to recover and rise to his feet because he wants to observe the board. He wants to see exactly who Drew reaches out to first, whose number he dials when he thinks no one is watching. Brennan is using Drew as a tracking device to map out a much larger hidden network operating in Port Charles. The tension is only going to escalate from here, especially when we look at the impending collision between Alexis and Drew. Alexis is going to face off with him, and Drew is going to arrogantly declare that he alone will dictate Scout's future. The argument is going to escalate at a terrifying speed, with Drew viewing Alexis's stern warnings not as legal advice, but as a direct personal threat against his autonomy. He is going to try to bulldoze her with his newly regained strength and anger, demanding absolute compliance. But Alexis Davis is a shark in the courtroom, and she does not rattle easily. As they stand there trading verbal blows, I can't shake the feeling that Alexis is 10 steps ahead of him. She is not just arguing out of emotion, she is stalling. I believe she already has a comprehensive, ironclad legal plan meticulously drafted and ready to be filed. She is letting Drew exhaust his anger, waiting for him to make one documented misstep before she drops a legal guillotine on his head completely stripping him of his ability to control the narrative or his daughter. The tension between them is a ticking time bomb, and Drew has no idea how close he is to detonating it. But the most heartbreaking and revealing moment is yet to come. Scout is going to return home, and when she walks through those doors and sees her father standing tall, the emotional dam is going to break. She is going to burst into tears and throw her arms around him in pure, unadulterated happiness. It will be a beautiful, poignant reunion that reminds us of the human stakes in all this chaos. However, children are observant, and they often speak without a filter. In the midst of her joy, Scout is going to innocently mention a tiny, seemingly insignificant detail about something that happened while Drew was lying unconscious in that hospital bed. That single, innocent sentence from his daughter is going to change everything. Something feels unfinished about the timeline of Drew's paralysis, and Scout's accidental revelation is going to be the missing puzzle piece. Drew's eyes will go cold as he realizes that the betrayal started much earlier than he ever suspected. The person who put him in that chair was plotting against him long before the final blow was struck. Ultimately, this entire chapter is not just a heartwarming story about a man learning to walk again. It is the dark, tense prologue to a massive mind game. Drew is hiding his true, lethal goals. Brennan is silently observing from the shadows. Ava is tracking a deadly trail. And the vicious custody battle between Willow and Michael is nothing more than a smokescreen meant to distract us from the colossal conspiracy that is about to swallow Port Charles whole.
Goodbye. Please like, subscribe, and comment on the GH Spoilers Daily channel.